It is a great honor to introduce our honorable guest, Mr. Sudarshan Anand. Sir is the Vice President and Business Head Climate Solutions Sector India and SAARC region. In his current role, he is responsible for Trane and Thermo King businesses that form part of the climate solution sector at Ingersoll Rand. Trane and Thermo King are Ingersoll Rand's strategic brands and world leaders in heating, ventilating, air conditioning, and refrigeration industries that serve commercial, transport, and marine markets. As part of this role, Sir also oversees Ingersoll Rand's new upcoming manufacturing plant in Chennai. The new facility is part of company's overall growth strategy to drive technology, innovation, and product development to serve local customers. An industry veteran with more than 20 years of hands-on experience in manufacturing, technical support, project sales, industrial sales, and business management, Mr. Anand joined Ingersoll Rand from Wipro Limited, where he held the position of Vice President and Business Head of the Eco-Energy businesses. Sir holds a degree in Mechanical Engineering from NIT Jamshedpur. He is an active member at several international and national industry forums on green building, renewable energy, energy efficiency, and was member of National Task Force constituted on green public procurement. May I now invite our esteemed guest, Mr. Sudarshan Anand, to share his rich experiences with the audience. Sir.
Good evening. Let me start with an apology, because I'm going to be holding you back from going out for an hour. I'm sure you had a very, very long and very interesting day. I heard the previous enthusiastic speaker who spoke before me, and I'm sure a lot of them were during the day, and they must have kept your minds busy, they must have kept your thoughts busy. And your thoughts must be your mind must be overflowing with thoughts. So I'm just hoping that I'll be able to find some space in your mind to be able to give you a perspective of what corporate life is all about. So as you would notice, I do not have a presentation. So is it a relief? Good. So that's a good beginning. But I have a few anecdotes to share with you. I have a few analogies to share with you. I started my career about 26th year running now. And like many of you here, I was also a student who was looking to make something in this society. But I want to share with you something else, not about my life story. And what I want to do is to bring out an analogy as you are preparing yourself, your young minds, you are the future of this country. And as you're preparing yourself to a journey of next 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 years, you need to really understand that how is this going to be, and how is it closely linked to our own Indian philosophy. And by doing so, you will be able to see the correlation that will help you to manage this journey very well. So this analogy, I'll take you back to what we have as 4 stages in a man's or a human life. We have both ladies and gentlemen here, so it's human life. In India, we call it as Bal Avastha. You know what a Bal Avastha is? Okay, good. And then you have Shiksha Avastha, which is the Vidyarthi Avastha. You know what that is? Right? Then you have Yuva Avastha or the Grahastha Avastha. And then finally, Vanaprastha. Right? You know what Vanaprastha is? Go to the forest. But that's not so bad. So what are these stages in a human life? These stages are representation of the state of what you are in that period. I would change this a little and call it as Bal Avastha is nothing but period of observation. Think of yourself as a child. I think a lot of you are probably familiar with babies. You don't have maybe probably one of your own, but you're familiar. You have siblings, you have watched your nephews, nieces, and you see the child. The child is always observing. The child is observing what's happening. One of the statistics done by a very renowned research said that almost 80% of child's time is spent in observing. It absorbs. It observes, it absorbs. When you enter into your corporate life, in the initial few months, that's what you got to do. You got to observe. Because what you absorb there will help you to kind of make up your mind. It doesn't think, it doesn't judge. That's what you got to do. And when you do that, you are able to figure out what is it that is relevant to you and what is not. And that would take that period of time. So what are the attributes that is needed when you enter into a corporate life? The attribute of being observant, the attribute of being flexible, and the attribute of being obedient. Because the child does that, right? The child is asked to open its mouth, it does. Closes its mouth, it does. Because that helps you to basically be connected. Then comes the period when you are in the period of learning, I would say. So first few months could be 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. And then you move to a period of learning where you start understanding what is it that you are expected to do. What is it that you can do? What is that you will have to do? That is the period of learning. Takes about 20 to 24 months before you start understanding that this is what is expected of you, this is what you can do or you may need to do, and you will be able to drive yourself towards the direction that you have set for yourself. And once you do that, then you enter into the period of what I would call it as contribution or earning. In the first 2 periods, you are not expected to contribute. You are expected to learn, you are expected to observe. And both of them need patience. You need to give yourself that time. Your expectation has to be calibrated. And when you enter into the period of learning, the period of contribution, the learning part starts becoming less and less important to you, and contributing starts becoming more and more to you. And you start delivering the targets. And that continues for the next 20 years. So you may learn less, you may give more, but you continue this journey till you reach probably the age where I am in today, when you start getting into the period of giving. You give back what you have got. So when you enter as you prepare yourself over next couple of years to enter into the world of corporate, what I would urge you all is that don't see this as an artificial part of your being. This is your natural self. This is what is human made to in your natural life. And go through it in the same natural way, because that is what you will end up being, an authentic, natural self who has discovered himself in this journey, who has learned in this process, who has started contributing in the process, and at the end of it, you gratify yourself by giving back what you have actually learned. Now completes the journey of how it will be in the corporate. And what I would like to now share with you, and I would like this to be now an interactive session, because I'm sure you've had so many people giving you so many things to remember, being enthusiastic, having a goal, writing your own success. I'm sure all these things are You would have heard it over and over. But what I would like this to be is an interactive session where I would like to understand what will it take for you to be different. Because in a world where differentiation is recognized, how do you dare to be different? How can you prepare yourself to be different? And there I would like to talk to you about a couple of things that would help you to do that. First of all, never think that you can't make a mistake. Never be under the impression that your journey always has to be successful. It can't be. You will reach a point in life when life starts looking routine. So how do you create a routine which is different and which keeps you enthusiastic, which keeps you going? And I would like to hear from some of you as to what do you think are the things that will make you be different, that will help you to be different, that will help you to dare to be different. Anybody? Anything that you have thought yourself as not routine, not normal? Anyone? Let me give you an anecdote. And this is something that personally happened. How many of you have heard of this company called Flipkart? Wow, that's great. One of the co-founders is Sachin Bansal. You heard of him? Okay. So I used to work for this organization called Wipro, and we were looking at, and I joined that organization to help Wipro identify a new business area where they wanted to invest. And that was in the year 2005, 2006. And I happened to, while in my quest, and my brief was that I would have to create a business, present it to the board, and the board would accept or reject it. And if it accepts, then we go ahead and put that business in place. And if it rejects it, I go back to finding another business opportunity. And while I was doing this, I was urged by the chairman of Wipro to go and meet people. So he said, look, you can't sit inside an air-conditioned room and think about new business. Won't happen, right? You got to go and meet people, go network. So I started moving around, which was the right thing to do. And I came across this gentleman who, one day I met him at one of the angel investors meet. And he was presenting an idea which was, how do you do online purchasing of goods? And he was presenting it to a set of investors, Bangalore-based. A lot of questions. Oh, this has never been done in India before. Oh, this doesn't work. This will not happen. We don't trust. Our penetration of internet is so less. Right? And this man had an answer which was less than satisfactory for every question, but he had an answer. Right? And the guys were not very, very happy about it. But ultimately, a few people bet on him. So I saw that, and then later in the program, once the program ended, I went and met him. I said, what is it why are you still pushing this? Because every member here didn't really support you in your proposal. He actually put so many questions to you that they punched hole in everything that you mentioned, except that it's a great idea. He says, yeah, but you know what? I would like to be different. I don't want people to walk to the stores to buy because A, the streets are getting crowded, the traffic it is getting worse, people don't have time, people are looking for convenience, and here I have a solution that is probably ahead of thinking of all the people who are sitting here deciding about that investment. So he says, I didn't come here to seek investment. I came here because I wanted them to punch holes that I can go back and work on. Today that company is valued at $5 billion. How many years since this conversation took place? 9 years. He dared to be different. Anybody has a $1 billion idea in this room? Anyone? There is nothing like a dumb question. There's nothing like a dumb thought. Anybody? Okay, let me give you another anecdote. And this one was, again, quite recent. Okay, I came across this this company, which was, I would not like to take the name of the company because it's a private limited organization, who were making solar panels, solar systems, right? Again, this organization is known. The entrepreneur who is running this organization is well known, and he happens to be in Bangalore. I met him on an occasion where I asked him that who are you? I mean, how do you describe yourself? He says, I describe myself as a social entrepreneur. He says, what do you mean by a social entrepreneur? He says, what I mean is, I want to bring a change in the social environment through my entrepreneurship, wherein I do profit because that's the way to keep the business going, but then it is not at the expense of the person who is actually getting benefited by me. And I said, it's a very noble thought. So how do you do it? So this person, his target audience are the street hawkers. What do the street hawkers do? You have seen a street hawker who sells vegetables every day, fruits every day. Every morning they wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning. They go to the mandi. They buy vegetables or the fruits at the price that is lowest at the time because the farmer comes and sells it, brings it to the town, brings it to the city, marks it up. At the end of the day, sells everything, and then so it's a daily velocity of sale that happens. If they don't sell every day, they can't survive. They don't get their livelihood, right? So it is as simple as that for them. Every day they have to make a sale. Come rain, come sunshine, they have to do that. Now, one of the things that prevents them from extending the sale is that if it doesn't happen in the daytime for any reason, the night prevents them from getting customers because it's dark. They have a street hawk, so they have a tela which doesn't have a light. So this man provides them with solar lamp. Okay? Now, when you buy a solar lamp, people who are in this business would tell you that it's very expensive, it's unaffordable, upfront, that is a lot of price, cost. So this man went and subsidized it. He says, you pay me 5 rupees a day. I'll give you this solar lamp, battery operated solar lamp, or a solar panel which has got a battery, so the whole day it charges and night it gives light for 4-5 hours. You burn it. At the end of the day, you give me 5 rupees. And believe me, in last few years, this man has created a 20 crore business enterprise, purely supporting a social cause. Do you think he has dared to be different? Now, these are 2 examples which are live. Of course, I can give you a lot more, but then I would like to understand from you that as you get into this journey of finishing this college education, getting into the corporate life, Is there anything that has cropped up your mind as being different? Is there anything that you think is a good idea that this world can actually benefit from, you can benefit from? And if you're not thinking in that direction, I think I would urge you to start looking at it. Because that's what is going to help you be different. Now, this need not be a person going out and doing it. This can actually be within the company. I was fortunate enough in 2 organizations where I worked, I had this opportunity of being an entrepreneur and not an entrepreneur. So I was given this opportunity to go and set up something, create a business, and deliver it, profitably to the organization. But what is required is the ability to think different, ability to dare to be different. Now I would like to pause here and actually stand up to any question or scrutiny that you may have, because it's easy to give you a lot of anecdotes, tell you in my 25 years of journey there has been tremendous amount of learning that I've had. I've had opportunity to work with some of the best minds in this business. But then it will only a one-sided thing. I will keep telling you. But what I would like to make it interactive is if you can ask questions. If you want to ask questions about anything that's bothering you today, about the kind of life you would like to lead, or about the opportunities that are there in the marketplace, about the trends that you see in the industry, I would be happy to actually make this interaction useful for you. Sure. Can you repeat, please? Go ahead. I think it's on.
Every business involves risk.
Yeah.
So how to plan about those risks beforehand?
Okay. So there are 2 or 3 things that you said which are dimensionally one has to understand. There is one which is the intrinsic risk of the business itself. Every business has to have a cyclical process to it. There's nothing like a business which is perpetually on the up, right? There is always a risk in the business. The second is, what does that risk mean to you? There are 2 parts to this. So one is, what is the risk to the business, and the other is, what is the risk to you, right? So which one are you referring to?
You talked about uniqueness,
Yeah,
creativity.
yeah,
What if we fail? What that idea fails?
yeah.
We have to plan about those risks now. So how to plan?
Right. So there is the second one, which is, if those risks are attributable to you, then how do you deal with it? It's a great question. Thank you. Now, risk, please sit down. Risk is an inherent part of our daily life. Tell me anything. I mean, is there anything that doesn't carry a risk? Anything. Right? Where there is no work, there is 100% safety. But that's also a risk of survival. So there is nothing like a risk-free environment. We live in an environment that has its risk. So what is needed is to understand the risk. The first and foremost thing is to understand the risk. Now what does it take to understand the risk? The first and foremost thing is the mind, the risk of failure. Understand the risk related to failure, because failure is the biggest deterrent to an action. Often people take failure so badly that they stop acting, they start reacting. Right? And so the important thing is to understand that what is the worst case scenario. And that's very important to understand, because once you get over that worst case scenario psyche, then डर के आगे जीत है. So you got to really overcome the fear of failure. The fear of failure can only be overcome if you try. If you're passive about it, won't happen. Now, The question that is, how do you assess risks? So there are several scientific and well laid out mechanism to assess risk. There is something called a failure mode analysis, right? So if something has to fail, then there are a set of things that would need to be evaluated to say how severe is the failure, right? So even in the business, when you make a plan, when you make a business plan, let's say you want to start a catering service, right? Maybe you don't want to, but I'm just giving you an example. You want to catering service. What does a catering service involve? A catering service involves you to find a customer who needs food to eat at a particular time, of a particular type, taste, cost, and you have the ability to actually deliver it to that person, right? That's the catering service all about. Now, if you want to do that, the first and foremost thing is to find somebody who wants food. Like, you can't start a catering service with people who don't want to eat, right? So you got to find a guy who wants to eat, a person who wants to eat, a company which needs food. And then you figure out that how long do they want that food to be eaten? Do they want it every day? They want it only once a day? Or they want it only once in a while, or when there is a birthday party or an office party? And then you figure out various things. So you proceed on any business plan in a very structured way and figure out that each of these would need to what kind of a risk, and do you have the ability to mitigate it within your means? If it not, seek help. One of the foremost things to be successful in a corporate world is to let go of this notion that I can do it on my own. Won't happen. Won't happen. If you think you're the smartest guy on earth, the smartest lady on earth, forget it. There are 7 more out there who are probably as smart as you are. Right? So let go of that notion, seek help. And I'm sure once you do these and seek help, you'll be able to come up to a decision point where you say, okay, can I do it? Can I not do it? Okay. Let me let go of this catering. Let me start maybe supplying flowers. So I don't know whether I answered your question, but okay, thank you. Yeah, please.
So like you said, sir, do you have a business plan, like a $1 billion plan? So sir, like I have many plans. For example, sir, when I thought of a plan, so like on an internet portal, that I will help the builders to meet the contractors, the electricians, like, and the plumbers and all the people. So like this plan, I have many plans, but I don't know my plan will be successful or not. So can you please, sir, give an advice how to decide on a particular whether the plan will be successful or not? There is an insecurity in the mind. So how to overcome the insecurity?
Great question. Great question. What's your name?
Rohan, sir. Rohan.
Very good. Great question. Let me give you a small anecdote because that's important to set the context. So when this assignment came to me, I was actually working for a very interesting company and a very renowned company called Asian Paints before I moved to Wipro. So when I took up this job in Wipro, so Mr. Premji asked me that why do you want to leave? Asian Paints is a great company, and you're getting into a business where you don't have a business, right? You're getting into a company which I don't even have a designation for you other than calling you a vice president, because I don't know what business you're going to make, right? So why do you want to take a risk of joining this? So I told him, look, you can only get this kind of an opportunity once in a lifetime to start something for somebody who is already successful, right? So he said, do you have an idea? I said, I don't have an idea, but I am confident I'll find one. So here is how I went about, and then maybe, you can probably get an idea. I'm not saying this is a foolproof way. So when you look at a business, that's a very large business, then one of the things that business idea, then one of the things that you need to really put in place in your series of evaluation criteria is how relevant is this business to the person who is actually going to benefit, right? How relevant it is. Does he value the business that you are trying to offer to him, or the value proposition that you're going to give to him? The third is, what is the longevity of this business, right? If you solve this problem, can this be solved by himself? That is, does he need you once he has solved the problem? Or does he need you forever? Or as long as this problem is there, he still needs you. Right? For example, if you become your own doctor, if you know that if these are the medicines you need to take, are you not trying to put the doctor out of business? But you don't, right? Because you don't know all the secrets of that curing. You still need a doctor. So are you in a profession, or are you trying to build a business where you will be a doctor, that the other guy needs you, continues to need you, right? So these are, like I said, very, very generic criteria, but there were plenty because I had to put it to the board. It was a lot of detailed out criteria. But these were some of the top of the mind process. And I identified one specific area that is going to bother the mankind for next couple of decades. So that's a good criteria to actually put on. So, do I have a business idea that is relevant for next couple of decades? So you're talking of something that can be relevant for next 20 years. And we came across one thing that's going to be troublesome for the mankind, and that is sustainability. Sustainability is going to be the important driver for business decisions over next few decades. We are already beginning to see it. And so we chose a business that was in sustainability, so catering to the need to be sustainable, and then identified the business called Eco Energy. And then, so if you really want to look at a business and say whether this will be successful or not, you really need to understand that whether the need will remain relevant to the user for times to come. So you have a great idea that I want to put a portal that brings together different skilled people who can help in a home solution. Right? So you have a home solution that the tap is broken, the faucet is broken, the paint is peeling, the window needs to be corrected, the door is jammed, whatever, right? And then you have this handyman who is there on your network. All you need to do is have a portal where the guy calls and says, I need a plumber in 20 minutes. And you have a plumber on call who comes there, goes to that house, rectifies it, gets paid and goes back, but because this man has subscribed to your portal, you get money. So next time he wants to get a plumber, he doesn't call him, the risk is he might call the plumber. That's what Indians do, right? I'll give you a very simple, practical example that I saw in Switzerland. So when you use a public, loo, you pay, right? The door opens and then you use it and you come back. So I saw a bunch of Indians who didn't want to pay. All they did was put a small stone so that the door doesn't close. And with £1, €1, I think there were about 10 of them who went there, freshened themselves up and then came out. But I think the world doesn't do like that, right? So you don't worry whether the plumber gets called directly or not, unless you have this relationship with the plumber where he says, it's not just one customer, I'm going to get you 10 more. He's not going to fall trapped with that one person who will try and call him directly. Right? So you need to identify business which can mean something to the person for a long time, and then create a model of getting a revenue out of that. Right? So it's a great idea. The challenge only is in the implementation. But it's a great idea.